feel like this is my second home. Thank you.
You're welcome. Glad to have you with us, Carter. These biographies, I think, are real good. They help us know each other, or know more about each other. But let's do try to squeeze them down a little bit. And I think we started out saying, what, 3 minutes?
3 minutes, I'll get it.
So let's try to hold them close to 3 minutes. Jimmy Spivey, program chair.
Senior is a 6 feet 40 attitude, and we are going to have that meal out at the Lee Civic Center. Same time. Next week, the 9th, the school book at 9/12 time line.
Tonight's program is entitled Aerobics and Fitness, Aerobics and Exercise. It's going to be, I think it's an appropriate time to have this right after all the big eating holidays, spring, and Thanksgiving and New Year's, and now it's time to start trimming down, fellas. Our program tonight is presented by Diane Johnson. SWMA, she's the wife of Attorney Dale Johnson. And, they have 2 children, Amy, age 9, and Chad, age 6. And, Diane's background in fitness is she taught aerobics for 3 years, 2 years with the now defunct health spa in Clinton. All y'all would have gone, it might not be defunct. Since July, she has been in private business with Jan Butler, Connie Williamson, Beth Johnson, Nikki Stell, and they call themselves Clinton Aerobics Studio, and it's easy to find them. They're right across from the jailhouse. Her training, qualifications, she had 2 days training and certification by the NDEITA, National Dance Instructors Training Association, and 7 days intensive training, 70 hours. She's still trying to cool down. Certification from Desert Southwest Fitness at UNC Greensboro this past summer. So, without further ado, I present Diane Johnson.
The name of my speech tonight is Use It or Lose It. And I think it's a real appropriate time to just to talk about exercise. Everybody, I don't know anybody who doesn't know or feel like I should be in a regular exercise program. But the actual, what it actually takes to change your lifestyle so that it becomes a real part of every week of your life is another matter. I mean, if you ask someone to make a lifestyle change, you're talking, that's hard stuff. It's really hard to make yourself change your weekly way of doing things. And exercise is something that if you don't say, I'm going to do this 3 times a week for 30 minutes every time, you won't do it. And if you aren't very highly motivated and understand how very important exercise is to your body, you probably aren't going to do it. And this is a new year, 1986, and what better way to start it off than by making New Year's resolution to get into a regular exercise program. I realize most of you probably will not be in my exercise class. Maybe your wives will. Maybe you can motivate your wives to come and join up. We do have some end of the night classes, however, if you are interested. George's wife, Sarah, is in my class, and I'm trying to look, yes, Mary Neal's in some of our classes too. And Sherman has been in some of our classes. So we do have a few of the wives here. So I'm going to kind of get away from my particular exercise program and just try to talk to you and share some things that I've learned at these seminars that I've attended. I'm not an expert and I don't pretend to be. A lot of you here probably may know a lot more than I do. But I do want to share with you some things that I have learned. You've heard the old adage, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And that old adage certainly applies here to exercise. Let me first give you a little bit of history about where I'm coming from and why I am so obnoxiously enthusiastic about exercise. The way I I got into becoming obnoxiously enthusiastic about exercise was, well, I think first the way it happened was my mother had a stroke in 1974, and she was only at the age of 51. And it really shocked us because we didn't know, this was totally unexpected. She had had high blood pressure, but really didn't pay much attention to it. And she died suddenly, and it really shocked me. And so I started reading, and we're fortunate because we're living in a time where there's just a proliferation of information on exercise. And so I started reading every chance I got an article on stroke and on exercise. And I kept reading that aerobic exercise is somehow supposed to be preventive. It's supposed to be the kind of exercise that you're supposed to do to help prevent stroke and heart attack. But I didn't understand what aerobic exercise was, and I kept asking the recreation department whom I was exercising with at that time, what is aerobic exercise? And she really wasn't sure what aerobic exercise is. And I know y'all have heard a lot about aerobics. And you may, and some people think it's synonymous with exercise, but there are indeed not all exercise is aerobic. Aerobics can be basically divided into two types of exercise. Can be divided into either aerobic or anaerobic. And I want to explain to you and try to motivate you tonight to understand why aerobic exercise is the kind that you need to commit your life to for the rest of your life. People really know how important, think they know how important exercise is, but somehow there are other priorities that keep getting in the way, and they don't have time at the end of the day. Exercise is important as sleep is to your body. If you ever really understand that, you could not live without sleep. You can live without exercise, but to be involved in a regular exercise program will make the quality of your life much better. Let me go back again. My mother had a stroke and died, and then my father had a stroke. He is now a semi-invalid. So, as you can see, I have a lot of motivation. And then I had back trouble about 4 years ago, and I thought, gosh, I got cancer. Anytime you have a pain that doesn't go away for 2 months, you think, you just think the worst. Anyway, I finally talked myself into going to the doctor, and he explained that he thought it was because I was out of shape. I didn't look out of shape. I was not overweight. But he gave me a sheet of back exercises, and I have brought a sheet of back exercises here for you if you do have that problem and you're interested in looking at that. And it cured my problem. After religiously doing the exercises that he gave me for 2 weeks, the pain went away. And I noticed that if I did not continue to do these exercises, it came right back. And as soon as I started doing them again, it would go away. So for the last 4 years, I have been involved in an exercise program, and I have to do, because if I stop, my back pain does come back. So it made a believer out of me. That gives you a little bit of where I'm coming from. I have reasons to be highly motivated, and I realize a lot of you may not have those reasons, but I'm going to try to motivate you tonight. First of all, I'd like to explain to you what is aerobic exercise. Finally, after asking, I have found out what it is, and it's very simple. There's been a lot of research in the past 10 years, and so it's very new, and that's why a lot of you may not know what it is. It's very recent, very new research. This started going on in the late 60s, 1968, 1969, and in the early 70s to find out what is the threshold of exercise that a body needs to maintain fitness. And the man that we owe tribute to for doing this research, and those of you that are runners, I know there's several in here that are joggers, will know this man, Dr. Kenneth Cooper. He has a research center in Dallas, Texas, and it's called the Aerobics Center. He is a doctor, a medical doctor. He was a military doctor, and he started doing research. He started getting more into preventive medicine, and a lot of the doctors actually rejected him because they were more in tune to curing you once you got sick. But he's more into preventive medicine. By taking care of your body, you can prevent a lot of these stroke, heart attacks, that plagues that are problems in medicine. Let me read you his definition of aerobics, since he is the guru of aerobics. And if you would like to read this book or borrow it, I'd be glad to let you use it. Aerobic exercise refers to those activities that require oxygen for prolonged periods and place such demands on the body that it is required to improve its capacity to handle oxygen. Aerobic simply means with oxygen. Some exercises demand oxygen for you to produce the energy you need to do that exercise. And aerobic has to be a sustained effort. It can't be a short burst of energy like weightlifting or sprinting, which requires sudden burst of energy and which you cannot sustain for 20 minutes. It has to be an exercise that your body, it has to be slow, it has to be rhythmic, it has to be continuous, and it has to be sustained. The research has shown that it has to be sustained for a minimum of 20 minutes. They used to say 12 minutes, and some people may still say 12 minutes. But the research now is showing that you need to sustain that exercise for at least 20 to 30 minutes for it to benefit your heart, your lungs, your cardiovascular system, and to produce the fitness that we all want. So remember that. What are some activities that you can think of that you could sustain for 20 minutes that are slow, rhythmic, and continuous? The best one I think of is brisk walking. A lot of us do jogging, stationary bicycling, or either just regular bicycling around the block. But you do have to sustain it for 20 minutes minimum. The king of aerobic exercise is cross-country skiing. Not many of us can do that, but to give you an example of what I mean, when you're doing cross-country skiing, you're using your whole body, your arms and your legs, and the more you can get your entire body into the exercise, the better it is for your body. In other words, like weightlifting, you're just doing one part of your body, and weightlifting is anaerobic, it is not aerobic. Okay, so does that help you a little bit on that? Let me go back again and finish this definition. As a result of aerobic exercise, there are beneficial changes that occur in the lungs, the heart, and the vascular system. More specifically, regular exercise of this type enhances the ability of the body to move air into and out of the lungs. The total blood volume increases, and the blood becomes better equipped to transport oxygen. Aerobic exercise is usually involved endurance activities which don't require excessive speed, like sprinting. In fact, when recommending various kinds of aerobic exercise, I always stress that it is better to use long, slow distances than it is to rely on short, fast bursts of energy. Okay, now I want to talk to you about the training principle. Now that you know that aerobic exercise is slow, continuous, and rhythmic movement that increases the body's capacity to use oxygen, now let's talk about what you have to do, and this is what I want to explain this for. A lot of people don't realize that there is a formula that you can use. A lot of people don't know, how much do I walk, how much do I jog, how much do I ride the bicycle? You know, what is the threshold that I have to pass to the point where my body will become physically fit? And this graphically explains what I'm fixing to say to you. There is a maximum heart rate, a training heart rate, and a resting heart rate. And I want to explain to you what these are. If you'll go by these principles, and I'm going to help you calculate your own training heart rate, it's just like having a doctor monitor your exercise program. If you learn to take your pulse, and that's the kind of exercise we do at our Clinton Aerobic Studio. We do pulse monitored exercise. We stop and take our pulse and see if we're in our target zone. This is the target zone, the red area here. First of all, everybody has a maximum heart rate. If you went to a doctor and he put you on a treadmill stress test, there would be a point at which your heart would beat no faster. No matter how hard you exercise, your heart would not beat one beat faster. That is called your maximum heart rate. And when you are about, okay, this is right up here. This is your maximum heart rate. Okay? This is heart rate in beats per minute going this way. That's how fast your heart beats. Across the bottom is your age. When you're about age 25, your heart will beat about 200 beats per minute, if you're average. The only true way to find out what your maximum heart rate is to take a stress test on a treadmill or on a bicycle and have a doctor monitor you. But assuming you're average, when you're about 25, it's 200, and your heart rate drops about one beat every year thereafter. And it has nothing to do with your physical fitness. It has everything to do with your age. Your heart just slows down a bit every year. So that by the time you're about 65, your maximum heart rate is about 153. Okay, so you can see that how the line declines from age 25 here to age 65 here. And it has nothing to do with how physically fit, whether you're an athlete or whether you're a non-athlete or whether you're very out of shape. It just has to do that you're getting older and your heart is getting slower. Now, to find out what your training heart rate is, and this is very scientifically done and it's been based on a lot of research, and so it's very important, I think. Your target zone, which you see here in the red area, is described as being, right here, this top line is 85% of this maximum level, okay? You find out what 85% of this is, and this is this top line here. Then you figure out what 60% of your maximum level is, and that's the bottom line here. So your target zone is defined as being anywhere between 60 and 85% of your maximum heart rate. Some people say 60 and 90%. This chart says 60 and 85%. If you will elevate your heart into this target zone, you've got a big spread here. I mean, if you're 40 years old, you can get between, just so your heart is elevated to 108 beats per minute to 155 beats per minute. So you see, you've got about, what? You've got a real big spread here between 60 and 85. So you've got a large range that you have to play with. And so the minimum is, if you're 40 years old, you must get your heart rate to at least 108 beats per minute. Most of us in here probably have a heart rate of about 80 beats per minute. So that gives you an idea of how high you're going. And a lot of people think higher is better. They think, oh, I want to get up at the top of my target zone. But that's not true. Especially if you want to control your weight. Actually, you burn more fat when you stay down here in the when you stay below 80%, you're burning more fat as your source of energy. Once you get way up here, 85, and if you go above 85%, way up here in this zone, you're no longer doing aerobic exercise. You're doing anaerobic exercise. And you cannot sustain it very long. You'll get out of breath, and you'll get winded, and you'll give out. You just will not be able to last. That's anaerobic activity. And you will not be able to sustain it for 20 minutes. If you cannot pass the top test when you're jogging or when you're walking, you're not doing aerobic exercise. You're working out too hard. And I don't care how out of shape you are, how long it has been since you've exercised, you can do aerobic exercise. The difference being, someone that has not exercised in a long time will not be able to exercise as vigorously as someone that is in shape. They'll have to do it at a slower pace. But they can do aerobic exercise because this is just like a doctor standing right there beside you saying, slow down, speed up. All you have to do is stop, take your pulse, and see if you're in your target zone. Okay, let's do this. Everybody if you've got a pen or a pencil, and help you for your own benefit when you go home, you'll know what your target zone is. And you can look at this chart and find what it is.
You quit about halfway up. You got to write down here. Just so long as you do it.
Okay, you can look at this chart and find it, Mr. Rodel, but if you don't, let's just do it just to let you know how they came up with this. Take 220 and subtract your age. And I've got 10 minutes, I think. Is that right? So I've got to hurry along. Take 220 and subtract your age from that. And that should be your maximum heart rate. Remember we said, 200 when you're about 25. So evidently when you're about 15 to 20 years old, your heart will be 220 beats. So you subtract your age for 220 beats and you come up with your maximum heart rate. Remember, you get a slower 1 beat every year. That's why we're subtracting your age from 220. Okay, now figure out what 60% of your maximum heart rate is. So say 60% times your maximum heart rate that you just got when you subtracted your age from 220. So 60% times it. Okay, that figure, like I have to get my heart rate up to about 130 beats per minute to be in my target zone. So that figure is your minimum. You got to get your heart at least that high, assuming that your maximum heart rate is average. If you don't think you're average, you may want to get a stress test to find out what your true target zone is. But you can you can pretty much tell. When you start getting winded and you can't talk, you need to slow down. And if you don't feel slightly breathless, then you're probably not doing enough. You want to feel a slight breathless feeling, but you do not want to feel like you're gasping for breath, because you're not doing aerobics at that point. Now, to find out what your top figure is, say, well, they say 85, but the books are all saying 90%. Figure out what 90% of that is, of your maximum heart rate. Take your maximum heart rate again, and figure out what 90% of it is.
That was 119.
That's fine. That sounds right. And, okay, that gives you your minimum and your maximum. You want to stay within that range. So what I'm going to encourage y'all to do tomorrow when you get home from work is go out and get your wife, or just get a friend, or just go by yourself and walk for 30 minutes minimum. You've got to walk for 30 minutes at least. It takes you about 5 minutes to get in the target zone once you start walking. Okay, so you can't count the first 5 minutes in the 20 minutes. And then you got to cool down about 5 minutes. So the formula is you've got to keep your heart in your target zone that we just figured out for 20 minutes. So add 5 minutes to warm up, add 5 minutes to cool down, you've got 30 minutes. Now that's not much. I mean, anybody can change their lifestyle enough so that they can somewhere in their life put in 30 minutes for 3 times a week. And yes, 3 times a week is the minimum that you should do to get cardiovascular fitness for your body. 1 time a week is going to help a little bit, but it's really not going to do what you want it to do for you. 2 times a week, you've really got to do, the research has shown, and it's been very scientifically documented, you've got to do 3 times a week. If you can't go outside, a lot of people say, I come home from work and it's dark and it's cold, and you know, I know that's a problem. But you can find something. You can buy a bicycle, a stationary bicycle, and put in your house. You can buy a treadmill and put in your house. You can do something. If you really, truly, if it ever hits you how important this was to you and your health and your well-being, you do it. It's just crucial. I mean, it shouldn't be optional. It is as important as sleep is to your body. And if you're determined, you can find a type of exercise that is aerobic that will fit into your lifestyle. Maybe jogging isn't for you, maybe brisk walking isn't for you, but try swimming, try stationary bicycle, try a treadmill, a rowing machine. The rowing machines that are on the market now, they are aerobic. And now that you know how to monitor your heart rate, here's the way we take our heart rate. Find your Adam's apple, and I want you to do that real briefly because I really want y'all to do this. I didn't care about y'all. I know you're not going to make exercise class next week. I care about your health, and I want to show you how to do this on your own. You find your Adam's apple is the best place for me, and where a lot of us do it. I usually use these 2 fingers. This is the way they taught it. And then you go to the right or to the side of your Adam's apple, and you can feel your carotid artery. Yeah, some people take it here in the temple. Some people will take it, you find your thumb, and you go to the base of your thumb and use these 2 fingers. You can feel it right here. Is that the radial artery? And let's take it and just see what it is, just for the heck of it. Let's do it for 10 seconds. Excuse me, we're going to do it for 6 seconds, and then all you do is multiply that times 10 to give you 60 seconds. That's 1 minute. Let's see where you are, okay? Heart rate, when I say count, start counting. Ready? Has everybody got their heart rate? Heart rate, ready, count. Stop. Okay. That'll give you an idea of where you are now. I got 72. And then you say, I got, excuse me, I didn't get 10 times what I got was 72. 10 times what I got was 72, okay? My heart is beating 72 beats a minute. My resting heart rate, if you want to find out what your resting heart, multiply what you got times 10. What did you get? That sounds right. 140? Okay, that sounds high. Try that again.
You're excited, Sam. You're excited.
Just a minute.
You know what? You did more than 6 seconds.
I did 10 seconds.
She did more than
That's
6
what you got in I did 10 seconds. Sometimes we do 6-second heartbeat, sometimes heart rate, and sometimes we do 10. I did 10.
Multiply by
times
6.
6. Yeah, now what did you get?
14 times 10. 14. You got 84, sir. 84.
84. Now that's more like it. Yeah. Take what you got and multiply it times 6. I did a 10-second count. It's easiest if you do 6 seconds because all you have to do is add a 0. But I did 10 because I'm used to doing that in my aerobic class. I did that because I'm used to doing that in my aerobic class. Okay, does that explain to you what you need to do to take care of yourself? Let me briefly tell you in the 5 minutes that I have the benefits of aerobic exercise. And you can take these wellness wheels came from Duke University, and you can answer the questions on the back and then add up the total that you get for each section and come over here and see what your wellness profile is for you. That will give you an idea of where you stand. The benefits of aerobic exercise, there's zillions of them, but let me just give you a few. A lot of people think we do exercise to burn calories, and we do burn calories, but that's really not why we do it. I mean, you can jog for 20 minutes and you burn about 180 calories. Well, you can go home and drink one glass of milk and you've blown all the calories you just burned up. So we really don't do it for that reason. We do aerobic exercise because of what changes that take place in our body. And of course, the most important is what it does for your heart and your lungs and your blood vessels. And our American diet, unfortunately, is high in saturated fats, especially when you eat beef and pork. They are marbled with saturated fats, and that is one reason we have a high incidence of coronary heart disease in our country. Number 1, it increases your physical work capacity. In other words, your muscles, it increases the amount of muscle that you have. You become stronger. Not only your muscles, but your heart muscle becomes stronger. Number 2, it decreases your coronary risk. And the reason it decreases your coronary risk, I want to briefly explain what I have learned, and some of you may know even better than I do, but of course your heart becomes stronger. When you embark on an aerobic exercise program 3 times a week for 30 minutes every time, your heart's going to get stronger. A weak heart has to be fast, quick, little weak pulses to, say, pump 1 gallon of blood. A strong heart will have to be fewer beats because it's pumping more blood every beat. So your heart rate is going to get lower after you've been doing aerobics for a few months. You'll notice that your resting heart rate will get lower. So it makes your heart stronger and that it can pump more blood with each beat, and your heart rate will get slower. This has happened with me. When I first started, my heart rate was about 70, and now it is down to about 56 beats per minute, my resting heart rate. So, and I've been doing this for like 3 or 4 years. So it's really had a big impact on my heart, and it's real. It's not just, they're not just saying that. Okay, number 3, it increases your basal metabolic rate. And for those of us that want to watch our weight, that's wonderful. Dr. Nance told me one time, he said, Don, there are only 2 ways you can increase your basal metabolic rate. And he said that is through drugs or through exercise. Caffeine increases your metabolic rate, but of course, and a lot of your drugs that are being used today do that. Amphetamines, a lot of people may start taking diet pills. Amphetamines increases their basal metabolic rate and they'll lose a lot of weight, but we don't want to do that. Exercise is the only other way you can increase your basal metabolism, and that's how you control your weight. Because someone who is doing exercise 3 times a week for 30 minutes, they're sitting in this chair. Okay, Doug Parsons does that. He is sitting in that chair, and his body, his basal metabolic rate is, he's burning up more calories just sitting there than someone who is not, because his basal metabolic rate is higher than someone who is not physically fit. So, yes, we burn calories when we exercise, but we burn calories when we do not exercise, when you are physically fit. Your body has a higher metabolic rate. And also, you have more muscle mass, and therefore muscles burn calories, and fat does not. Fat just sits there. So when you've got more muscle mass, you're burning more calories while you're sitting in that chair, and while you're sleeping at night, you're burning more calories than someone who's not fit. Okay, another reason that it decreases your coronary risk is, and this is important to me, it increases your good cholesterol. There's good cholesterol and there's bad cholesterol. You are so important. I see y'all going like this. Everybody has read this. Several of you have. There's HDL, which is good cholesterol. It takes the cholesterol that is bad and removes it from your cells and tissues and takes it to the liver where it's excreted. The bad cholesterol, which is LDL, is the kind that clogs up your arteries. And believe it or not, exercise actually increases the good cholesterol, the kind that gets rid of the cholesterol and gets it out of your body. So that's important to know. Another reason because exercise decreases your coronary risk is because there's increasing evidence that exercise breaks down blockages in arteries. Again, some of this stuff is disputed, but there is increasing evidence that that may be the case. Another benefit of exercise is that it raises the level of calorie-consuming enzymes inside the muscle. Aerobic exercise is called the fat burner. When you become sedentary and you become not physically active, your body loses the capacity to burn fat efficiently. For some reason, the enzymes in your muscles that burn fat are very fragile, and I don't understand why, but I've done a lot of reading that explains that. And you've heard people that are obese say, I don't eat hardly anything, and I cannot lose weight. A lot of them are telling the truth. They are so sedentary, or they become sedentary, and their body and the enzymes in those muscles that normally burn fat have lost their functioning ability to do it efficiently. And the only way for them to lose weight is not just diet. They've got to start exercising aerobically and wake those enzymes up that burn fat. So aerobics is the fat burner. That's the bonus. Not only is it cardiovascular fitness that it achieves, it also burns fat and wakes those fat enzymes up there. Burn those fats. Okay, the next thing I want to tell you is, and I'm hurrying along because I know you're all ready to go, but it stimulates your body's absorption of calcium. This isn't as important for men as it is for women. When women go through menopause, the estrogen somehow has an effect on leaching the calcium out of their bones, and women very easily break their hips. So it's very important for women to do exercise that is of aerobics. Somehow the jar of exercise, like when you're walking, the jar, and when you're jogging, the jar stimulates bone density. That's why doctors try to get patients out of bed as quickly as they can, get them on their feet, get them walking, because while they're laying in the bed, the calcium is being leached out of their bones. So it stimulates your body's absorption of calcium. Number 8, it helps regulate your appetite. And number 9, it helps lower your blood pressure. There's some booklets up here that I wish you would come and look at. I cannot let you have these booklets over here, but I can let you have these. And this is the booklet that got